Hey, it's Mark coming to you from Baker Skin Acres. Today's December 1st, 2017, and it is an absolutely beautiful day out. It's so bright out that I had to bring my camera in here. And lately, I've had just a lot of things on my mind, and it causes a guy to think sometimes, just keep it to yourself. Why do you feel you need to spout this off? And when I pondered that question, I thought through people that I've known and people that I've listened to and people that have come across my path. And so I thought we'll title this one Influence. I suppose when I was a kid, there was people in my neighborhood that were bad influences. I used to hear that. But then as I've gone along, you know, whether they were good, bad, or indifferent, they all kind of fit into this puzzle. And out of it, you develop attitudes towards things. And, you know, in my life, there are a lot of people who care about my influence, and they want to know what I think about things. And I had to question why. It wasn't like that when I was in the Air Force, except my close circle of friends would care what I thought about. But usually it was what I thought about, you know, this type of motorcycle or this type of airplane or whatever. It wasn't about political things. But the reason why people care about what I think now is because me and my family have been through the fire. We have been on the receiving end of abusive politicians and bureaucrats. We know exactly what that's all about. We've been through it. So people care about what I say. And when I talk about answers to these problems, I know what I'm talking about. Back in 2014, I was at a briefing here in Michigan, and the briefer was a retired general. I'm not sure what kind of general he was. He was regular Army. His name was Jerry Boykin. And if you don't know who he is, there was a movie that came out a long time ago. It's called Black Hawk Down. Well, Jerry Boykin was the commanding officer of that operation. And if you watch the movie, you see that they had a helicopter that went down, and this was in Somalia, and it turned into a really big mess, and he lost a lot of people. And for a commanding officer to lose people is very difficult, and he has to live with that the rest of his life. And so he was given this briefing, and he went through a few things that were plaguing us as a society, and mostly everything that he talked about, we could trace it back to individuals that we elect or that are appointed that make poor decisions. And I'm not talking decisions where they kind of don't understand what they're doing and they just, you know, falter a little bit. These are decisions that are made that directly positively affect them, and they do it at the expense of the people that they serve. And this briefing went on for a while, and then there was another man sitting at the table with me, also retired active duty, and he was an officer when he was in, and he interrupted the general, which caused me to pause a little bit. And he said, "Sir, what is the answer to this?" And he almost demanded an answer from a general officer, and I thought that was, I took some guts to do that. I would not have done that. Even though we're all retired now, still we have a place. And that's what makes our organization as powerful as it is. And the general stopped, and he pointed a finger, and I happened to be sitting, you know, it was a round table, and I was kind of on the point of it. I was closest to him, and I swear he was pointing at me, which didn't make me feel too comfortable. This is a big man, and he's got a certain look to him. And he said, "Oath of office." And I have never forgot that. I didn't understand it at the time. And the other military people at the table, we didn't even discuss it afterwards. It was one of those things. But as I've gone along, I've come to realize that the oath of office is something that we all do when we swear in to protect and defend our Constitution. We swear, we take a solemn oath before God and country and the men that we are serving with to protect and defend this document with our lives. We do it as military people. I've actually sworn people in, just civilians. I've sworn in auditoriums that swore to protect and defend their Constitution. And our elected officials, it's a contract that we make with them. We say, yeah, we'll elect you, but we need you to do this. We need you to protect and defend this document. So we need you to read this. If it's okay and you swear to protect and defend it, then you get the job. If not, you're out. It's a contract that we make with our people. In my case, the gauntlet that me and my family walked through with the state of Michigan, Department of Natural Resource, Department of Ag, I mean, it's still going on because they just don't let up. It should not have happened. We elect an attorney general, the top cop in the state, should have looked at that and said, wait a minute, this doesn't square with the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution. No way. But instead, what he did is he says, yeah, and if you don't do it, I'll fine you $700,000. So he piled on. Completely wrong. Completely wrong. And there, I believe this, you know, I'm talking about times are changing. And we're going back to rule of law. He could have been arrested for that and put out of office. And I believe he should have been. He took a solemn oath to protect and defend the constitutional rights of me, the citizen that elected him, and then he piled on something that was unconstitutional and illegal. And I believe he should have been arrested, but, you know, our government is so, our state government is so not rule of law that, you know, it's one lonely voice out here on YouTube saying, I'm calling foul. It had an effect, and it still has an effect. So, anyway, recently I've been accused of bashing candidates, bashing our guy. And, you know, I'm vetting candidates. It's important to me who our next governor is of the state of Michigan, because if we had a constitutionalist, if we have he can be a Democrat or Republican, I don't really care, just so long as on his little desk he's got a copy of the Bill of Rights, and everything that's supposed to come across there for him to sign, he's got to make sure it squares with that. And if it don't, he don't sign it. He should have a red pen that just... So that's, I'm looking for a constitutionalist. I mean, some people might be looking for, a guy that combs his hair to the left, or a guy that is a nice guy, or a guy that's a Christian guy. I'm not looking for that. I'm looking for a 100% constitutionalist. Those of us that served in the military and were honorably discharged, we have a big 100% next to our name. We did it without flaw, right? Now, granted, as a E1 trainee, I didn't have much ability to go against my oath, although I'm ordered to follow the orders of the officers appointed above me. And if I don't do that, I mean, you get court-martialed and you don't get an honorable discharge. So there's many, many people that are 100%ers. And our elected officials, especially senators and representatives, all they have to do is check one box or the other. You know, yes or no. If it squares with the Constitution, yes. If it doesn't, no. I am not going to put my support behind a guy who, off the shelf, has lots of history of not voting for our Constitution, protecting it. I'm not going to do that. I mean, there's some very bad things that have happened in here in Michigan as far as Senate Bill 652 and the mouth swabbing and all that stuff. Very bad. And they need to be changed. So I'm looking for a governor who is a constitutionalist. Period. End of story. If your guy ain't that, that's your problem. And how you can support somebody who is not a constitutionalist is beyond me. I'm being called a purist. A purist, really. Yeah. All right, so that's my point of view. There are other things, but I'm running up against 10 minutes here. I might just make another one real quick because I want to bolster my position and put it to rest. So this is Mark from Baker's Green Acres. Remember, anyone can farm, and stand by for part 2 of this here.